This week I'm going to show you my method for recording guitars and how that can really help my mix. Let's dig in. So over the last couple of years I've developed a method of recording guitars that has now become my go-to method. I found it really useful for getting a good mix, good guitar sounds, and also options for getting different guitar sounds throughout my mixing. But before we get into it, I'm going to ask you to like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff, because you know what, I really like doing this and I want to do some more. So this is actually very simple, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how I use two different mics on a guitar cab in two very different positions. And what that's going to give me is two very different tonalities that I can blend in to taste. With every guitar sound that I record, it always starts with an SM57. It's a kind of boring choice, but you know what, fuck it, it works. And that is always going to be the backbone of my guitar sounds, but I'm going to blend that in with another microphone. And quite often I like to use an AKG 414, which is a condenser microphone. There's loads of other mics you can use. There's the 421 by Sennheiser, that's a really popular choice. And of course a ribbon mic as well. So position wise, my 57 is going to be pretty much center of the cone, and that's going to give me a lot of brightness and a lot of bite. But with my 414, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have that a little off center, so it's a little bit more on the cone rather than the cap. And that's going to give me a little bit of body. Check out this picture using an amp sim to demonstrate, and you can see the two in very different positions. Now what this means is that what I can do is I can use the faders to essentially pre-EQ my guitar sound. So if I want more bite, I'll bring the 57s up, and if I want more body, I'll bring the 414s up. And this means that I'm essentially EQing with my faders rather than an EQ. Now it's not to say that I'm not going to use an EQ, but what it does mean is that my EQ moves will be minimal, and that's going to give me a much more natural guitar sound. Why don't we have a look at a session and see what it's all about. Okay, so looking at the session, I've got these two here, which are my 57s, and they are double tracked. And then I've got these two here, which are my 414s, which are double tracked as well. On each of them, I've got a little bit of corrective EQing, but not very much at all, really. So let's have a listen to the 57s on their own. So it sounds like a good bright guitar sound, and then let's listen to the 414s. So you'll notice that they are quite different. They're a lot darker with a lot more body to them, and they don't have the kind of high-end bite that the 57s have. Let's play them both together. So they add up to something pretty cool together. So what I want to do is just play it in context with the music. So here's where I can start to get a bit clever with it. I'm going to use the faders to kind of balance the body and the bite of the two microphone characters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 414s down and just leave the 57s in, okay? And let's listen to how that sounds in context. And we'll do the opposite. Let's just have the 414s in now. So the 57 sounded pretty good on their own, but there was lacking a bit of body. So let's start mixing in the 414s. So they're sitting quite nicely about there, so let's toggle them on and off. So you can really hear that when we bring the 414s in, the body and the meat of the guitar sound really does improve. So here's where I can really change things up. If I decide that I really want a meaty guitar sound rather than a punchier one, I can give priority to the 414s instead. So again, let's do the same thing. We'll take the 414s as our primary sort of tone, and then we'll start to blend in the 57s. So essentially what I've done here with the faders, that the first time round the 57s were more prominent and that gave us a much more punchier sort of sound, and this time round the 414s are more prominent and that's given us a bit more of a kind of bigger sort of like more low end punchy sort of sound, and that's given us a little bit more sort of weight to the guitar sound. And you could definitely hear that when the 57s are more prominent, we've definitely got more presence in that guitar sound as well. Let's just put them like straight side by side again, see how that sounds. So again, what we've got here is we've got options. If you want a bit more weight to the guitar sounds, bring the 57s back, let the 414s reign supreme. And if you want a bit more presence, let the 57s be more prominent, and you get this. Of course, the third option is just to have them side by side so that you've got a blend of both in equal capacity. And the great thing here as well is that what I could do is if there's parts of the song where I want a bit more balls to the guitar sound, then I can automate the 414s up or down accordingly. So if I get to a point in the song where it needs a little bit more girth to it, then I can bring up the 414s and add that in. So for me, I kind of always felt that the 57s were the ones that should be the most prominent. Let's listen to that. And now that I've kind of essentially used my faders to kind of balance the tonality or to kind of almost EQ the guitar sounds, I've got minimal things that I need to do afterwards. So what did I do afterwards? Well, I added an LA3A compressor. Let's toggle that off and on. And that was definitely adding a little bit more vibe to it. And then I added this Neve EQ with very, very little things going on. So I've got a touch of high end, touch of 3.2K, and a touch of 220, and obviously a little bit of a filter. So let's listen to that without it and then toggle it in. So by using this method, I really didn't have to do an awful lot of processing here to get a great guitar sound. And again, I can change this as well. So I want to bring more body in. Or less body. Or again, the more even split. And again, we'll just take the 57s down a bit, let the body have more prominence. But I definitely feel the 57s with the mid-range that they add really, really help that. That's a great guitar sound. Alright, what did you think? Did you think that was cool? If so, comment below, let me know. But honestly guys, I've been using this method for ages now and I think it's really, really great. And as I said in the video, it gives me a lot of options, and also I can use things like automation to bring up the body or the bite of the guitar at any point. Of course, the secret to any great sound is positioning wise, so do experiment, but try and find a position for your 57s that give you that great bite, and for the other mic, try and find something that gives you that body and that kind of weight to it as well. And I think it's super, super cool. The main thing for me is this means that I've got minimal processing on my guitar, and I like that because I don't want to have something that's like massively over processed. I want my guitar sounds to sound real, to sound exciting. And this method has been on loads of records that I've done over the last couple of years. So before you go, if you've not liked, subscribed, comment, shared, please do, and I will see you next week. Cheers.